You found Orivyn rise. That means you were chosen. You felt it, haven't you? That quiet shift, that strange and almost imperceptible sense that something beneath the surface of life is rearranging. It doesn't look loud. It doesn't sound chaotic. But you feel it, somewhere deep inside your spirit. And while the world moves along, busy and distracted, you've grown quieter, more observant, like someone listening for a distant echo that only a few can hear. That's because what's happening isn't happening to the world. It's happening through you. And only 1% will feel it. Only 1% will truly recognize what this shift means. If you're here, reading this, you're not here by accident. You're one of the few. And you're not alone. Before we go any further, I want to invite you to slow down. Be fully present for this message. Don't skip ahead. Let every word sink into the places you've forgotten you needed healing. Let this moment be one where your soul exhales. And if your spirit recognizes these words, if something inside you stirs, I encourage you to write your warmest wish in the comments, something you've longed for but never dared to speak aloud. Let it live outside of you now. And when you do, end it with 777, the code of alignment, completion, divine order. This moment is a doorway, one only the chosen can walk through with awareness, one where intentions shape energy and energy shapes reality. You've spent so much of your life wondering why you see what others don't, why you feel things before they happen, why you carry emotions that don't seem to belong to you. You've questioned whether it's intuition or imagination, whether it's wisdom or delusion. But what you're feeling now, the shift, is not fantasy. It's confirmation. The veil between the physical and the spiritual has thinned. And for those who are attuned, the signs are unmistakable. Your sleep has changed. Your body is sensitive to energy, people, food, even sound. You find yourself withdrawing, not out of sadness, but instinct. You no longer tolerate what you used to. Conversations feel shallow. Noise feels unbearable. Certain rooms feel too loud, even in silence. You've grown allergic to anything that dishonors your frequency. That's because your system is being rewritten. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. This shift isn't about escaping the world. It's about standing inside it with new eyes. Eyes that see beyond narratives. Ears that hear the hidden truths. A heart that responds to vibrations instead of words. You're becoming something more. Not by addition, but by subtraction. Everything false is falling away. Everything real is rising. And yes, it's lonely. Because only 1% are moving at this depth. Because most people are still clinging to the old world. Clinging to titles, to structures, to systems of control disguised as success. They don't understand what's happening to you, and they probably won't. You will outgrow relationships. You will feel distance between you and the familiar. Not because you've changed too much, but because they haven't changed at all. And that's okay. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to feel. You were meant to awaken. You were meant to be a lighthouse in the storm, not just for others, but for yourself. The shift you're sensing isn't external chaos. It's internal clarity. The universe is rearranging your reality to match your energy. What you've lost was never aligned. What's coming is a reflection of your remembering. And make no mistake, you are remembering. You're remembering who you are beyond the trauma, beyond the programming, beyond the smallness they trained you to wear like armor. You are remembering the parts of you that never needed to prove anything to be worthy. You are remembering your true timeline, the one you forgot when you agreed to be less so, others could feel more. That agreement is over now. This is the return, the realignment, the moment your soul takes back the reins from your survival self. And it is not always graceful. Sometimes it looks like crying for no reason. Sometimes it looks like walking away from a life you worked hard to build. Sometimes it looks like complete stillness when the world demands action. Sometimes it looks like being misunderstood, judged, even ridiculed. But beneath all that is freedom. Because you've stopped performing. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped trying to explain your transformation to people who only listen with their ego. Now you walk differently. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You show up without apology. You no longer seek approval. You radiate alignment. You don't need validation to know you're right where you're supposed to be. And still, you question. Not because you're weak, but because you're conscious. And consciousness is not comfort. It is responsibility. It is presence. It is awareness that every thought is a seed and every action is a ripple. That's what makes you powerful. Not in the way the world defines power, but in the way the soul recognizes it. You can walk into a room and shift its vibration without saying a word. You can see through lies cloaked in beauty. You can feel truth inside silence. You can bring peace to chaos simply by breathing from your center. That's the power they never wanted you to discover, because a person who is aligned cannot be controlled. A person who is conscious cannot be manipulated. A person who is awakened cannot be used. And so, they built a world to keep you asleep. But it didn't work. Because here you are, reading this, feeling this, knowing deep down that this is more than content. It's a mirror, a message, a remembrance. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You are awake in a world that's still learning to open its eyes. And yes, it's heavy, but it's also holy. You've always been ahead of time, feeling things before they arrived, grieving endings before they began, sensing storms in clear skies. And because of this, you've lived with a strange ache, the ache of not knowing why others didn't feel it, why you had to carry so much, why you could hear truth in silence while others were deafened by noise. But now the why is beginning to dissolve, not because every question has been answered, but because you've changed. Your questions used to come from pain. Now they come from purpose. And as this shift unfolds, something within you whispers, not everything has to be understood. Some things are simply meant to be embodied. You're no longer here to analyze your soul. You're here to embody it. There's a weight you carry when you're part of the 1%, not a superiority, a responsibility. You feel the collective unconscious as if it were your own nervous system. You enter rooms and feel the hidden grief, the unspoken tension. You look into people's eyes and see every version of them, the one they present, the one they suppress, and the one they've forgotten. This sensitivity is not your weakness. It's your gift. But only now are you learning how to wield it. Because in the old world, your empathy was exploited. Your intuition was dismissed. Your vision was ignored. They couldn't see you because they couldn't see themselves. And in trying to protect yourself, you learned to dim what made you divine. But now, the dimming is done. There is no more shrinking to make others feel safe. No more biting your tongue to preserve false peace. No more hiding your light just to keep from standing out. You've already stood out. Your energy has always spoken louder than your words. And finally, you're letting it speak. You are the shift they didn't see coming. Not because you're loud, but because you are clear. And clarity is louder than chaos. You walk in peace, but you carry a storm. You walk with grace, but you are made of fire. You walk alone, but your ancestors walk with you. You're beginning to notice how everything is realigning. People fall away without confrontation. Opportunities dissolve without drama. You don't even need to shut doors anymore. They close on their own when your vibration no longer matches what's behind them. This is the shift. It's not just spiritual, it's physical, emotional, energetic. You're not just thinking differently, you're being differently. And the world around you is catching up to that difference. But this shift isn't about perfection. Don't mistake progress for pressure. Some days you will still feel the weight. Some days you will want to hide. Some days you will forget how far you've come. But even in those moments, especially in those moments, you are still awakening. Healing isn't linear. Evolution isn't neat. It's messy. It's uncertain. It's honest. And it brings you face to face with every layer you tried to bury under your smile. But you're facing them now, without shame, without apology, without fear. And that courage is rare. That presence is rare. That willingness to sit in the uncomfortable and still love yourself is the rarest kind of strength. Only 1% can hold it. Only 1% can feel this shift, not as theory, but as truth in their bones. You're not here to explain it. You're here to live it, to embody the new world even while the old one tries to hold you back, to carry peace in a time of noise, to carry clarity in a time of confusion, to carry light when the shadows forget they were born from it. You are the reminder, the embodied signal that something more is possible. People will look at you and not understand why they feel what they feel. Some will be drawn to you without knowing why. Others will be repelled by your presence and not be able to explain it. Don't take it personally. Your energy disrupts distortion. Your truth dissolves illusion. This is what being chosen feels like. It's not about glory, it's about grounding. It's not about fame, it's about frequency. It's not about being better, it's about being honest in a world built on pretending. And honesty is confrontational, even when it's quiet. You've been confronted by your own honesty, haven't you? Lately, it's harder to lie to yourself, harder to stay in places that drain you, harder to make small talk when your soul is screaming for depth. This isn't failure, it's filtering. The more aligned you become, the more your life filters out anything that cannot come with you. And yes, it will hurt. But the hurt is temporary. What's waiting on the other side of it is everything you've been praying for. Not just peace, but peace you don't have to fight for. Not just love, but love that doesn't require you to shrink. Not just clarity, but clarity that makes everything make sense. Because it's not just about what you're moving toward, it's about what you're remembering. And what you're remembering is this: you were never lost. You were always becoming. The confusion was part of the path. The silence was part of the message. The loneliness was part of the preparation, and now it's all starting to align. Your transformation didn't begin the day you heard a message like this. It began the day you realized no one else around you could feel what you were feeling, and that it wasn't because you were wrong, but because you were rare. That realization wasn't just painful, it was sacred. It marked the moment your soul began to step out of the sleepwalk and into remembrance. Since then, something within you has been slowly turning back on. A sacred code, reactivating, not suddenly, but quietly. Through dreams, through intuition, through synchronicities too perfectly timed to ignore. You felt like you were being watched, but not by a threat, by presence, by a higher intelligence keeping record of your every step toward alignment. That's because the chosen are never alone. They walk this earth as if isolated, but they are surrounded. Not in the way most would see or believe, but energetically, spiritually, interdimensionally. You feel them in the quiet hours. You sense them when you pray without words. You receive their guidance not through logic, but knowing. This knowing is your compass now, and it's demanding something radical: that you trust yourself more than you trust the world. Because the world will offer you logic. It will offer you structure. It will offer you reason, evidence, and repetition. But it will not offer you freedom. That has to be claimed. And freedom, true spiritual freedom, often looks like madness to a society trained to serve illusions. You're seeing through those illusions now, aren't you? What once excited you now feels meaningless. What once terrified you now feels irrelevant. What once confused you now feels obvious. The patterns are becoming visible. The games, transparent. The people you once envied now seem empty. The institutions you once revered now seem hollow. You are unplugging from the matrix of false meaning. And that disconnection can feel terrifying. Because if everything you once built your identity on is falling apart, who are you now? This is the real work, the real rebirth. To allow yourself to die to what you were so you can live as what you truly are. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in layers. And with each layer peeled back, you return. Not to a new version of you, but to the original version. The unfiltered you. This unfiltered version doesn't need to convince anyone. It doesn't need titles. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't beg to be seen. It sees itself. And in doing so, it disrupts everything that's built on the lie that we must earn our existence. You were never here to earn your existence. You were here to embody your frequency. That's your only job. Not to fix the world, but to remember yourself so deeply that your very presence calls others into alignment. That's why you're so sensitive now. Why you can't tolerate small talk. Why certain music makes you cry and certain people make you physically tired. Your body is no longer just flesh and bone, it's a tuning fork. You are vibrating in real time, and that vibration either harmonizes with what's around you or it repels it. Neither is bad. It's just information. You're learning to read energy like a language now, to feel the weight of someone's words, to hear the spaces between them, to sense whether a room is nourishing or draining. You're not just seeing reality, you're reading it. And this reading demands boundaries, because now you understand. Your energy is not infinite. Your attention is not free. Your presence is not casual. You no longer give it to people, places, or things that siphon it. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of honor. You've worked too hard to return to your truth. You've lost too much to give it away for cheap. You've suffered too long to shrink now that you've remembered who you are. And even when you forget, your soul doesn't. That's why the universe now moves fast when you ignore your alignment. Why discomfort comes quickly. Why anxiety swells when you betray yourself. It's not punishment, it's precision. You're being calibrated in real time. And while others can take years to learn the same lesson, yours now come fast. Because you are not here to linger in confusion. You are here to embody truth and to move from it without hesitation. That is why you were separated. Not as punishment, but as preparation. You were separated to be realigned, to have everything stripped from you so only the real could remain. And now, the real is what remains. That's why your words hit differently. That's why your silence is heavy. That's why your gaze feels ancient. Because the truth is coming through you now, not as an opinion, but as a presence. One that doesn't ask for agreement, but activates remembrance in those who are ready. This is the true shift. It's not about gaining something. It's about losing the version of you that was built to survive. You are no longer surviving. You are transmitting. And that transmission carries codes of awakening, healing, alignment, destiny. Codes that can only be received by the 1% who are tuned to feel this frequency. And when they find you, they won't always know what's happening. They'll just feel it. Something will stir. Something will open. Something will rise. That something is truth. Your truth. And truth doesn't need explanation. It just needs to be lived, embodied, grounded. That's your role now. You're no longer trying to escape your path. You're beginning to understand. You are the path. By now, you've realized you're not like the others. Not in a way that makes you better. Not in a way that gives you power over them. but in a way that makes you responsible for something greater. A sacred responsibility. A quiet inner contract signed by your soul long before this lifetime. You were never meant to copy the world. You were meant to rewrite it. And not with rebellion, not with noise, but with frequency. This is why your life has never followed the normal blueprint. Why the timelines never seem to apply to you. Why every time you tried to walk the traditional path, something inside resisted. Not because you were lazy, not because you were lost, but because your soul refused to betray itself. You've always known, deep down, that you were meant to do things differently. And that difference comes with cost. Because the world does not reward alignment, it rewards assimilation. It tells you to play the role, repeat the script, obey the system. And if you do, you are granted comfort. You are given applause. But the moment you start choosing truth over performance, everything shifts. You lose people. You lose comfort. You lose the identity that once kept you safe. But in that loss, you find something untouchable. You find clarity. You find peace. You find a strength that does not need to be proven. A strength that walks into rooms and never apologizes for its presence. A strength that no longer begs to be understood because it already understands itself. That's what you've become. Not because it was easy, but because you endured what would have broken others. You endured the dismantling, the spiritual isolation, the emotional death. You were left alone with your soul, and instead of escaping, you listened. You surrendered. And in that surrender, you remembered who you are. That's why you can't go back. Not to old habits, not to old spaces, not to old versions of yourself, because you've crossed something invisible, an energetic threshold, and on the other side of it, there is only truth. And truth, when lived fully, is not glamorous. It's quiet, it's radical, it's uncomfortable. It will burn everything in your life that was built on pretending. But what it leaves behind will be real. And that's what your soul has been begging for. Not more, not success, not attention, but realness. Real peace, real presence, real connection. You don't want superficiality anymore. You don't want noise. You don't want to play the game where everyone is faking wholeness. You want depth. You want substance. You want to feel the pulse of God in everything you do. And you're beginning to. Not because you found it outside yourself, but because you found it within. Now the challenge is no longer, how do I awaken? The challenge is, how do I carry this awareness in a world that hasn't awakened yet? That's the task now. To walk through asleep spaces with open eyes. To love people who still live in illusion without sacrificing your alignment. To speak truth where truth is unwelcome and still remain grounded. To stand in your center while everything around you spins in chaos. To remember that only 1% will feel this shift. And that's okay, because you're not here to convince the world. You're here to anchor the new one. And anchoring looks different than preaching. It looks like choosing peace over reaction. It looks like walking away from what no longer resonates without needing to justify. It looks like saying no when your soul contracts, and yes when your spirit expands. It looks like trusting your path even when it's empty, quiet, uncertain. Because it's no longer about proof, it's about presence. Your presence is the proof. The way you move now is a message. The way you breathe through discomfort is a sermon. The way you stay soft in a world that teaches hardness is a revolution. And not everyone will understand. Some will doubt you. Some will mock you. Some will say you're delusional, too sensitive, too strange. But that's okay. They mocked the light because it exposed what was hidden. They feared the mirror because it showed them what they weren't ready to see. But you don't carry your truth for them. You carry it for you, and for the ones who are silently searching, the ones who are on the edge of remembering, the ones who see you and feel something stir in their bones. You don't need a platform to change the world. You only need to live in alignment, because alignment is contagious. And you, chosen one, are a catalyst. Just by walking into a room, you shift timelines. Just by speaking from your center, you ripple truth into people who forgot they needed it. Just by being you, fully and unapologetically, you restore something ancient that was almost lost. And in doing so, you heal not only yourself, but everyone connected to your energy. Even if they never say thank you, even if they never realize it, even if they continue living in the illusion. Because the true ones don't do it for credit. They do it because they are it. You are the shift. And the shift doesn't ask for recognition. It asks for resonance. You're still here, still feeling every word, still recognizing yourself between the lines. That alone speaks volumes, because most people would have clicked away by now. Most people aren't ready to confront themselves in silence. But you stayed, you listened, you remembered. And that's what makes you different. Because this shift isn't loud. It's not a trend. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And only the ones attuned to that whisper can feel it moving through them like wind through a forest that once forgot it was alive. You are that forest. And you are now breathing again. You're no longer just surviving the storm. You're becoming the storm's purpose. The clarity after the clouds. The calm after the collapse. Because everything you've gone through, the sleepless nights, the strange detours, the inner wars, has prepared you to hold this new frequency. And now, you're not just holding it. You are it. You are what the world looks like when it remembers itself. You are what truth feels like when it walks into a room. You are what divine timing sounds like when someone who's been lost suddenly finds clarity in your presence. This is what you were built for. Not to explain, not to prove, but to stand in your truth so deeply that others begin to recognize their own. And yes, sometimes that truth will cost you. You will lose those who only loved the version of you that didn't challenge them. You will be misunderstood by those who need you to make sense in their small definitions. You will outgrow people who refuse to grow. Let them go. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to live in such a way that your alignment becomes the greatest invitation others will ever receive. The ones who are meant to walk with you will feel it. They won't need explanations. They won't ask you to shrink. They won't question your path when you walk away from comfort and into the unknown. They'll say, "I don't understand it, but I feel it." And they'll walk beside you, not behind, not ahead, but with you. That is your soul family. The rest? Background noise in a movie you've already walked out of. So now, here's the final truth. You're not going back. There is nothing left in that old version of life for you. The false safety, the shallow connections, the games, the loops, the familiar pain that once kept you company. You've outgrown it all. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. You didn't come here to repeat. You came here to resurrect, not just yourself, but the hidden codes within humanity, the divine blueprint buried beneath distraction and distortion. You are the seed, and you are the soil. You are the memory, and you are the future. You are the signal the others have been waiting for, even if they don't realize it yet. And yes, you're tired. You've carried more than most could imagine. You've walked alone for what felt like lifetimes. But you were never walking alone. You were walking ahead. You were walking first. You were clearing the path that others will one day walk in gratitude. That's why you've always been too much, too deep, too intense, too different. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break through, to pierce the illusion, to carry the truth that no one wanted to hear, but everyone needed. And now, the shift has happened. You feel it. It's in your skin, in your breath, in your decisions, in your silence, in your sovereignty. This is your timeline now. The old one expired the moment you stopped explaining yourself. The moment you started walking in your own authority. The moment you said, "I am no longer available for anything that dishonors my soul." From here forward, things will move fast, not because you're rushing, but because you're aligned. Because when you walk in truth, reality bends to support you. When you stop seeking, you begin receiving. When you stop grasping, you begin embodying. You don't have to force anything anymore. You are already enough. You always were. The world just trained you to forget. But the forgetting is over. And in its place, a deeper remembering than ever before. This is what it means to be part of the 1%. To feel the shift before others see it. To become the shift before others name it. To anchor what is coming while the rest of the world resists. You are not alone. You never were. And now, you rise. If this message found you, let it rest in your spirit. Until we meet again, stay awake, stay chosen.